The Woman in the Wake. In the spring of 1998, the cruise ship Celestial Dawn sliced through the Caribbean's turquoise waters, a floating palace of glass and steel promising escape from the mundane. Its decks buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the hum of carefree indulgence. Among its passengers was Emily Harper, a 23-year-old from Ohio, vibrant and restless, on a family vacation meant to mend fraying bonds. Her family, her parents, Tom and Margaret, and her younger brother, Nate, had booked the cruise to celebrate her graduation, hoping to recapture the closeness they'd lost 2 years of arguments and distance. She sketched the crew waiters with tired eyes, a bartender who told stories of storms, a housekeeper who hummed hymns under her breath. She was quieter at breakfast, her fork pushing eggs around her plate. Emily wore a green dress that caught the light, her hair loose, her smile forced. She danced with a man in a white suit, his face unremarkable but his eyes oddly bright, like polished glass. Her shoes were by the door, her journal open on the desk, a half-finished sketch of the man in the white suit, his face now a blank oval, his hands elongated, fingers curling like tendrils. Nate checked the deck, the bar, the pool. Nothing. He woke his parents, and by 2 a.m., the ship's crew was alerted. Nate saw them from across the room, noting how the man's hand lingered on her arm, how Emily's laughter faltered. By midnight, she was gone. Passengers whispered in the dining halls, their eyes darting to the shadows. The crew, usually cheerful, moved with a quiet unease. Strange things began to happen. Lights flickered in cabins, even when switched off. Passengers reported hearing a faint hum, like a distant engine, but the crew found no source. At night, some swore they saw a figure on the deck, a woman in a green dress, standing at the rail, her hair whipping in the wind. When they approached, she was gone, the deck slick with seawater that smelled faintly of ash. Emily's parents clung to hope, but the crew's faces were grim. He found an old logbook, its pages yellowed, detailing the Celestial Dawn's history. Margaret sat in their cabin, clutching Emily's scarf, while Tom stared at the sea, his face hollow. Nate turned to Clara, a housekeeper who'd been kind to Emily, humming hymns as she cleaned their cabin. Clara was reluctant but shared a story from her grandmother, a Caribbean woman who spoke of the wake, a spirit that haunted the sea, drawn to ships that carried sorrow. "It wears a face to lure you," she said, her voice low, "but it has no face of its own. If it sees you, it knows you." Built in 1975, it had a reputation for minor incidents, passengers reporting lost time, crew members seeing shadows that moved against the light. One entry, dated 1983, described a woman who vanished her belongings found on the aft deck, arranged in a spiral. The log called it a suicide, but a handwritten note in the margin read, "She didn't jump, she was called." The ocean was vast, the currents unpredictable. A fall from the deck would leave no trace. But Nate couldn't shake the image of her journal, the sketch of the man with no face. He told the captain, who dismissed it as grief. "She's gone, son," Erickson said, his voice heavy. "The sea takes what it wants." "It's nothing," she told Nate when he asked, but her eyes were distant, fixed on the sea beyond the dining room's windows. That afternoon, she spent hours on the observation deck, sketching furiously. Her journal, later found in her cabin, showed a shift. Her usual portraits of passengers gave way to strange, abstract shapes, spirals that seemed to twist off the page, a figure with no face standing in water, its hands too long, its outline smudged like wet ink. Crew members scoured every deck, every lounge, every stairwell. Passengers were questioned, their hazy memories of the gala offering little. A woman in green dancing, laughing, then gone. The ship's security footage was grainy, showing Emily walking alone down a corridor toward the aft deck at 12:47 a.m. The tape cut to static, then resumed with the corridor empty. No one saw her fall. No one heard a splash. Nate, 17 and awkward, trailed her like a shadow, half annoyed, half enchanted by her energy. Tom and Margaret watched from a distance, relieved to see their daughter happy, though they noticed her growing restless, her gaze often drifting to the horizon. The Celestial Dawn was a 5-night voyage from Miami to the Bahamas, a glittering escape with casinos, dance floors, and endless buffet. Emily, though, was drawn to the quieter corners, the observation deck at dawn, the library's musty shelves, the way the sea stretched to infinity. She vanished on the third night, leaving behind a mystery that would haunt the ship, its passengers, and the sea itself. The official report spoke of an accident, perhaps a fall overboard, but those who were there whispered of something else, a presence that lingered in the ship's shadows, watching from the waves. This is not the story the world knows. This is what the ocean murmured when the stars went dark. The voyage begins. Emily was no stranger to a recent college graduate with a degree in anthropology. She had a quick smile and a habit of sketching strangers in her worn leather journal. The first 2 days were Emily danced with strangers in the ship's nightclub, her laughter ringing out over the calypso band. On the third morning, March 24th, 1998, Emily seemed different. That night, the ship hosted a gala in the grand ballroom. The vanishing. Nate was the last to see her. He'd gone to the cabin they shared, expecting to find her asleep, but her bed was empty. The Celestial Dawn's captain, a stern Norwegian named Lars Eriksson, ordered a search. By dawn, the Coast Guard was involved. Helicopters buzzing over the sea, boats combing the waves. The whispers begin. The Celestial Dawn continued its voyage, but the mood had shifted. Nate became obsessed. He spent hours in the ship's library, a dim room lined with outdated books and maps. Nate showed the log to his parents, but they were too broken to listen. The shadows and the waves. On the fourth night, the ship hit a storm. Waves battered the hull, the sky a roiling black. Nate couldn't sleep, the hum now a constant drone in his ears. He slipped out of the cabin, drawn to the aft deck where Emily was last seen. The deck was empty, the rail slick with rain. He saw her, or thought he did, a figure in green, standing at the edge, her back to him. "Emily," he called, but the wind swallowed his voice. She was skeptical but intrigued, her grey hair pulled tight, her eyes sharp. Emily had written of dreams, a woman in the waves, calling her name, her voice a hum that promised answers. The last entry read, "She's waiting for me. She knows what I want." Nate's stomach churned. He'd never told anyone, but Emily had been struggling, her dreams of travel clashing with her family's expectations. The cruise was meant to fix her, but it had drawn something else instead. The water hissed, the pages dissolving into ash, and the figure screamed a sound that wasn't human, a wail that echoed in his bones. The hold shook, pipes groaning, and the glow faded. The official report called Emily's disappearance a tragic accident, likely a fall overboard. Her family returned to Ohio, broken, Nate carrying only her scarf and a memory of the hum. The ship continued its voyages, but the crew changed, their stories of the woman in green fading into rumor. When Nate stumbled back to the deck, the hum was gone, but so was any trace of Emily. Dock workers spoke of lights in the water, a hum that followed them home. Inside was a note, written in Emily's hand. "I found her. She was waiting." The sailor burned it, but the hum followed him, faint but relentless. The Celestial Dawn was scrapped in 2005. Its steel melted down, but the sea remembers. At night, when the waves are still, a figure can be seen in the wake, her dress green, her face a void, her eyes watching. If you hear the hum, if you see her in the water, don't look back, because the woman in the wake is always there, and once she knows your name, the sea will never let you go. Some claim to see a woman in green, standing on the pier at night, her eyes glowing through the fog. Nate, now a shadow of himself, never spoke of that night, but he kept a single page from Emily's journal, torn and smudged with ash, its spiral symbol a reminder of what he'd seen. She studied the journal, noting the symbol's similarity to ancient maritime myth stelaes of entities that haunted ships, feeding on grief or longing. "The sea is a mirror," she said. "It reflects what you bring to it. Your sister was searching for something, wasn't she?" Nate nodded, remembering Emily's restlessness, her sketches of the horizon. The figure turned, and he froze. Her face was wrong, a smudge of grey where features should be, her eyes to glowing points like distant lighthouses. She raised a hand, fingers too long, and the hum became a word. "Nate." He stumbled back, the deck lurching under him. The figure glided forward, not walking but moving, its dress trailing like smoke. He would confront whatever had taken Emily. He stole a flashlight from the crew and slipped into the lower decks, where the air was thick with oil and salt. In its center stood the woman in green, not Emily, but something wearing her shape. Her face was a grey void, her eyes glowing white, her dress rippling like water. The hum was deafening, a chorus of voices chanting his name. Nate held up the journal, shouting, "Give her back." The figure tilted its head, and the pool of water rose, forming tendrils that reach for him. The hum was louder here, a vibration that rattled his teeth. He followed it to a storage hold, its storage jar, a faint glow spilling out. He ran, his heart pounding, and locked himself in the cabin. Clara told Nate she'd seen the woman in green, standing in a supply closet, her form flickering like a bad signal. The captain, under pressure, ordered the crew to check the ship's lower levels, the engine rooms and storage holds rarely visited. He noticed patterns in her sketches, the spirals, the faceless figure, the recurring symbol of an eye with no pupil. He showed them to Clara, who paled. "That's the Wake's mark," she whispered. "My grandmother said it binds you to the sea. Once it's on you, you're hers." Nate didn't believe in spirits, but he couldn't deny the hum, the way it seemed to know his name. They found nothing except a faint smudge of ash on a bulkhead, forming a spiral that hadn't been there before. The hum followed, seeping through the walls, and when he looked at Emily's journal, the sketch of the man in the white suit had changed. His face was gone, replaced by the same grey smudge, his hands now claws reaching off the page. The next morning, the storm had passed, but the ship felt different. Passengers avoided the aft deck, their faces pale, the journal's secret. Nate kept Emily's journal close, its pages a lifeline to his sister. He found a passenger, Dr. Helen Voss, a retired folklorist who'd overheard his questions. Helen helped him decipher the journal's final pages, written in a hurried scrawl. The night of the wake. On the final night, as the celestial dawn neared Miami, Nate made a plan. Inside, the hold was empty except for a pool of seawater, impossible on a sealed ship. He threw the journal into the pool, hoping to break the connection. The ship that forgot, the celestial dawn, docked in Miami, its passengers shaken but silent. Cold Water, the port town where the ship was serviced, became a place of whispers. Years later, a sailor found a bottle in the Caribbean, its glass etched with spirals.